My name is Emma. If that security camera hadn't captured everything, I might have spent the rest of my life believing a lie. My husband, Ryan, and I had been married for 7 years. We weren't wealthy, but we had a cozy home, a loyal dog, and dreams of building a family together. At least, that's what I believe. Lately, Ryan had been working late almost every night. Sometimes he wouldn't get home until after midnight. His shirts smelled like unfamiliar perfume. He started taking phone calls outside. Whenever I asked about it, he would just smile. "You're overthinking it." And because I loved him, I chose to believe him. Until one evening, my neighbor called me. "Emma, my security camera recorded someone entering your property this afternoon." "Weren't you supposed to be at work?" I frowned. "I was. I'll send you the footage." I opened the video while sitting in my car. The timestamp read: times 5:47 p.m. times a black SUV pulled into our driveway. Ryan stepped out, but he wasn't alone. A blonde woman got out of the passenger seat. Ryan looked around carefully. Then, he reached for her hand. My heart stopped. I immediately tried to explain it away. Maybe she was a coworker. Maybe she needed help. Maybe I was imagining things. Then, Ryan kissed her. Right there, in front of our house. The house we had bought together. The house I had spent years turning into a home. I replayed the video. Again. And again, each time. The truth became harder to deny. 20 minutes later, the two of them walked inside. Ryan closed the front door behind them. The curtains were pulled shut. The camera couldn't show me what happened next. But it didn't have to. I already knew. I sat frozen in my car. Then my phone rang. It was Ryan. "Hey, honey. I'm still with a client. I'll probably be home late tonight." I stared at his name on my screen. Then looked back at the video. For the first time in 7 years, I realized something. The man I trusted most was lying to me, even while betraying me. I took a deep breath, silenced the call, started my car. But I didn't drive home. If Ryan thought I'd burst through the front door screaming, he was wrong. Because at that moment, I had something far more powerful than an argument. I had proof, and cameras never lie. That night, I came home as if nothing had happened. Ryan was already sitting on the couch. He smiled. "Hey, you're home." I smiled back. "Yeah. How was your meeting with the client?" He answered without hesitation. "Long. But everything went well." He lied. So naturally, it sounded like the truth. I walked into the kitchen. 2 wine glasses sat in the sink. Ryan never drank wine alone. On the countertop, I noticed a long blonde hair. Quietly, I picked it up, slipped it into my pocket, and said nothing. Back in the living room, Ryan kept talking about his meeting. Every detail, every name, every story. If I hadn't watched the security footage, I would have believed every word. That night, Ryan wrapped his arms around me in bed. "I love you." I stared at the ceiling, then quietly replied, "I love you too." It was the first lie I had ever told him. The next morning, as soon as Ryan left for work, I called my neighbor. "Do you still have recordings from the previous weeks?" He answered, "Yes. The system stores footage for 30 days. My heart started racing. "Can I see all of it?" An hour later, I was sitting in front of his computer, watching every recording. The first day, nothing unusual. The second day, the black SUV appeared. The third day, the blonde woman came back. The fourth day, Ryan hugged her at our front door. The fifth day, they left the house together early the next morning. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the second. For nearly a month, Ryan had been bringing another woman into our home. While I believed he was working late, I copied every video file, saved another backup to the cloud, then shut my laptop. This time, I wasn't going to let him erase the truth, because this was only the beginning. After watching every second of the footage, I had only one question: who was she? I zoomed in on every frame. The car, her face, her handbag. Then, I noticed something. A company ID badge hanging from her bag. It appeared for less than a second. I took a screenshot. Zoomed in. The image was blurry, but I could still make out the company name. It was the same company Ryan had claimed was his biggest client. The next day, I took the afternoon off work, drove to the office building, and waited at a cafe across the street. Around 3 o'clock, Ryan walked out. A few seconds later, the blonde woman followed him. They laughed together. Ryan gently brushed her hair behind her ear, exactly the way he used to do with me. Quietly, I took several photos. Not because I was jealous, because I knew one day he'd deny everything. I kept watching. They walked into a restaurant, sat side by side, shared a dessert, smiled like two people in love. When the bill arrived, Ryan pulled out a credit card. I recognized it immediately. It was our joint credit card, the one connected to both of our salaries. My heart sank. He wasn't just cheating, he was using our money to fund his affair. After they left, I returned to my car, opened our banking app, and checked the last 6 months of statements. Luxury restaurants, hotels, jewelry stores, weekend trips. The total was nearly $30,000. I had never noticed, because Ryan had always managed our finances. I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes. I thought the hardest part would be seeing my husband kiss another woman. I was wrong. The hardest part was realizing the person I trusted most had been lying to me every single day, and with every dollar we had earned together. That evening, Ryan came home like nothing had happened. He wrapped his arms around me while I was cooking dinner. "That smells amazing," I smiled. "I'm making your favorite." A week earlier, that moment would have made me happy. Now, all I saw was a man performing. During dinner, Ryan started talking about a summer vacation. "What do you think about Hawaii? I can take a week off." I looked at him. The same man who had been spending our money on another woman was planning a romantic vacation with his wife. I nodded. "That sounds nice." Ryan smiled. He had no idea. I already knew everything. That night, after he fell asleep, I picked up his phone. The password was still our wedding anniversary. How ironic. He betrayed me. Yet he still used the date we got married to protect his secrets. I opened his messages. The woman's name was Lauren . Hundreds of conversations appeared. One message made my blood run cold. Lauren, when are you finally going to tell Emma? Ryan, soon. She won't get much after the divorce anyway. Don't worry. I tightened my grip on the phone. He wasn't just cheating. He was already planning our divorce. And planning to leave me with almost nothing. I quietly took screenshots. Emailed every one of them to a private account. Deleted my tracks. Then placed his phone exactly where I had found it. I lay back in bed, looking at the man sleeping peacefully beside me. For the first time, I didn't ask myself, why did you do this? Instead, I realized something. Ryan believed he was controlling the game. What he didn't know was that every lie, every video, every message was becoming evidence against him. And I wasn't going to file for divorce. Not yet. Not until I had everything I needed. 2 days later, I took the day off. Not to cry. Not to fall apart. I went to see a divorce lawyer. He listened carefully. Watched every security video. Read every screenshot. Then he asked one simple question. "Does your husband know that you've discovered the affair?" I shook my head. "No." He smiled. "Good." I frowned. "Why?" He leaned back in his chair. "Because people who think they're safe usually make even bigger mistakes." He slid a folder toward me. "If you confront him today, he'll delete evidence, move money, hide assets, and prepare for court. But if he believes you know nothing, He'll keep exposing himself. I sat there quietly. That was the moment. I stopped thinking like a betrayed wife and started thinking like someone protecting her future. Before I left, the lawyer handed me a checklist: bank statements, insurance policies, property records, investment accounts, retirement funds, every financial document connected to our marriage. Make copies. Don't take anything. Just preserve the records. From this point on, every document matters. That evening, Ryan told me he had to work late again. I simply smiled. Drive safely. He kissed my forehead. You're the best wife anyone could ask for. The moment the front door closed, I opened our home safe, scanned every document, saved everything to a separate encrypted drive. Then I found something unexpected. Ryan had recently opened a new investment account. The beneficiary wasn't me. It was Lauren. I stared at the screen. The pain was fading. In its place came clarity. The puzzle pieces were finally coming together. And I knew the day the truth came out was getting closer. 1 week later, Ryan told me he had to leave on a 3-day business trip. He hugged me before walking out the door. I'm going to miss you. I smiled. I'll miss you too. The moment his car disappeared down the street, my phone buzzed. The neighbor's security camera had detected movement. 15 minutes later, a taxi stopped in front of our house. Lauren stepped out. Then, she unlocked our front door with her own key. I froze. Ryan hadn't just been bringing her into our home. He had given her a key. I kept watching. Lauren carried 2 large suitcases inside, as if she already lived there. 30 minutes later, Ryan returned. There was no business trip, no hotel, no client meeting. He hugged Lauren. They laughed together, then carried the luggage upstairs. I saved the footage immediately. Just then, Ryan called me on video. I took a deep breath and answered. Behind him was a plain white wall. How's the hotel? I asked. He smiled without hesitation. It's nice. I just checked in. I looked at his face, then at the security footage playing on my laptop. At that exact same moment, Ryan was standing inside our home, lying directly to me. Only minutes after the call ended, another camera recording appeared. This time, Ryan and Lauren were sitting in the living room. Lauren laughed and asked, "When can I finally move in here for good?" Ryan answered without thinking, "Just a few more weeks. Emma will sign the divorce papers. This house will be ours." I paused the video, took a slow, deep breath. That house was half mine. I had worked for it. I had built a life inside it. And yet, they were already planning their future there. While I was still Ryan's legal wife, I called my lawyer. I said only one sentence. I have more evidence. He was silent for a moment, then replied, "Excellent. Now let him keep talking. The more he lies, the deeper he buries himself." I thought. Ryan's affair was the worst thing he could have done. I was wrong. A few days later, my lawyer called. "Emma, we found something unusual." He sent me a folder. Inside was the purchase agreement for a luxury condominium. The contract had been signed 3 months earlier. The owner listed on the paperwork was Lauren. But the first payment had come from Ryan's bank account, more accurately, from our joint account. I kept reading. Ryan had transferred the money in several smaller payments, each one carefully kept below the reporting threshold. He thought no one would notice. But every transaction had left a trail. My lawyer looked at me. "This isn't just adultery anymore. This is marital property being used to support an affair. A judge will pay close attention to that." I nodded. For the first time in weeks, I no longer felt like the victim. I felt prepared. That evening, Ryan came home carrying flowers. "These are for you. I've been so busy lately." I smiled. "Thank you." After he went upstairs, I noticed the receipt still tucked inside the bouquet. He hadn't bought one arrangement. He had bought 2. One delivered to our house. The other delivered to Lauren's office. I almost laughed. Even his lies had become lazy. I slipped the receipt into my evidence folder. Just then, a new email appeared on my phone. The sender's identity was hidden. The message contained only one sentence. Times if you want to know the whole truth about Ryan, meet me. Times below it was an address. I stared at the screen. Something told me the affair wasn't the biggest secret. Ryan was hiding something far worse. The next day, I went to the address in the email. It was a small cafe on the edge of town. I chose a table by the window. Right on time, a woman in her 50s walked in. She looked at me. Emma. I nodded. She sat down. My name is Linda. I'm Lauren's mother. I froze. She placed a large envelope on the table. I'm not here to defend my daughter. I'm here because Ryan deceived her too. I opened the envelope. Inside were dozens of photographs. Ryan and Lauren on vacations. Ryan buying her jewelry. Ryan introducing her to his friends. Then I reached the final photo. Ryan was on one knee, holding an engagement ring. Linda looked at me. My daughter believed he was going to marry her. What about Ryan? I asked quietly. She gave a bitter smile. My daughter was only another victim. Confused, I watched as she unlocked her phone. She played an audio recording. Ryan's voice filled the room. Don't worry. Emma doesn't suspect anything. I'll divorce her soon. The house. The money. It'll all be mine. Then we'll start our new life. Linda stopped the recording. Later, Lauren accidentally overheard another phone call. He was laughing with a friend. He said once he got everything from you, he'd leave Lauren too. I couldn't speak. Linda lowered her eyes. My daughter realized too late. She had fallen in love with a man who only knew how to use people. She pushed a USB drive toward me. It contains everything. The recordings, the messages, the photos, and Ryan's entire plan. I picked up the USB. In that moment, I finally understood. Ryan didn't love me. He didn't love Lauren either. The only person Ryan had ever loved was himself. As I stood to leave, Linda called after me. Emma, please, don't let that man destroy another woman's life. I tightened my grip on the USB, then nodded. I won't. For the first time, I knew. The day of the final confrontation had finally arrived. 1 week later, Ryan announced he wanted to host a family dinner. I have something important to tell everyone. That evening, both of our parents were there. Several close friends. And Lauren. Ryan introduced her as a coworker. I sat quietly across from him, calmer than I ever thought possible. After dinner, Ryan stood and raised his wine glass. There's something I need to say. He looked at me, then sighed dramatically. Emma, we're no longer happy. I think it's time for a divorce. The room fell silent. My mother started crying. Ryan's father lowered his head. Lauren pretended to look shocked. But I noticed the tiny smile at the corner of her mouth. Ryan continued. I want this divorce to be respectful. We'll divide everything fairly. I slowly placed my glass on the table, then smiled. Are you finished? Ryan nodded. Good. My turn. I pulled a small remote from my purse. The television behind Ryan turned on. The security footage began to play. 5:47 p.m., Ryan stepped out of the SUV, held Lauren's hand, then kissed her in front of our home. The room froze. Ryan's face turned pale. Emma, I can explain. I didn't let him finish. The next clip played. Lauren unlocking our front door with her own key. The two of them carrying suitcases upstairs. Then the audio recording filled the room. Times Emma will sign the divorce papers. Times this house will be ours. Times next came. The bank statements. The receipts. The text messages. The apartment contract. Every piece of evidence appeared one after another. No one said a word. Ryan couldn't move. Lauren began trembling. Then suddenly she turned toward him. You told me you loved me. Ryan shouted, Be quiet. Not now. Lauren laughed through her tears. You lied to me too. She pulled off the engagement ring Ryan had given her. Threw it onto the table. We're done. She walked away without looking back. Ryan started after her. But his father stood up, for the first time in his life. He slapped Ryan across the face. Have you embarrassed this family enough? Ryan stood there in complete silence. As for me, I quietly closed my laptop. The truth was finally out. 3 months later, the final court hearing arrived. Ryan walked into the courtroom. He looked different, thinner, exhausted. Gone was the confidence he once carried. Still, part of him believed he could save himself. His attorney stood. My client believes the marital assets should be divided fairly. My lawyer simply smiled. He placed a hard drive before the judge. Your Honor, this contains all of the evidence. The security camera footage, the text messages, the audio recordings, the bank statements, the apartment purchase agreement, every transfer Ryan made to Lauren using marital funds. Everything was organized. Everything was documented. Ryan lowered his head. There was nothing left to deny. The judge looked directly at him. Do you dispute any of this evidence? Ryan remained silent for several long seconds. Finally, he answered, no. It was the first honest word he had spoken in a very long time. After hours of testimony, the judge delivered the ruling. Ryan was ordered to repay every dollar he had spent from their shared assets. Emma was awarded ownership of the house. She received the larger share of the marital estate under the court's decision. Ryan was also ordered to pay the legal costs. The hearing was over. Ryan slowly walked toward me. Emma, I know. I've lost any chance I ever had. I looked at him calmly. Yes. He lowered his eyes. I'm sorry. This time, I believed he meant it. But, some apologies. Come far too late. I smiled gently. I forgive you. But I'm not coming back. Then I turned around, walked out of the courthouse. The sunlight filled the front steps. I took a deep breath. My marriage was finally over. But my life was finally beginning. 1 year after the trial, I no longer lived in our old house. I sold it. Not because I was afraid of the memories, but because I refused to let the past define my future. I bought a smaller home with a quiet garden, and the first thing I installed was a new security camera system. Every time I looked at those cameras, I no longer thought about betrayal. I thought about the day they saved my life. My career changed too. After my story became public, I was invited to speak at conferences about financial awareness, trust, and protecting yourself in marriage. At first, I turned every invitation down. Then I realized, if my story could help even one person, then none of the pain had been wasted. One afternoon, after finishing a speech, a young woman rushed over and hugged me. She was crying. Because of your story. I checked our joint accounts, and I discovered my husband had been hiding things from me too. I'm not afraid anymore. I hugged her back. For the first time, I understood something. My deepest wound had become someone else's strength. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ryan. Only one sentence. Times thank you for forgiving me. I'm trying to become a better man. Times I read it, smiled quietly, then deleted it. Not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed to carry anything from my past. I walked outside. The afternoon sun filled the street. I lifted my head, took a deep breath. The security camera had recorded the worst day of my life, but it had also captured the beginning of my new one. And this time, my future would never again be written by someone else's lies. 2 years later, on a quiet spring morning, I was watering flowers in my front yard. The doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Ryan was standing there, alone. The expensive suits were gone. The luxury car was gone. All that remained was a man who looked much older than I remembered. He looked at me. I only came to say one thing. I waited silently. He took a deep breath. Thank you for not destroying my life. I looked at him, surprised. Ryan gave a sad smile. If you had chosen revenge, I probably would have spent the rest of my life believing I was the victim. But you didn't. You let the evidence speak. You let the court decide. And that forced me to face the only person responsible, myself. I didn't answer. Ryan reached into his pocket. He held out an old house key, the key to the home we once shared. I've carried this for 2 years. I think it's finally time to give it back. I accepted it, not because I wanted the past, but because the past was finally over. Ryan turned around and slowly walked away. At that exact moment, my front door security camera detected movement. I looked down at my phone. The camera had recorded our final meeting. I watched the clip for a few seconds, then pressed delete. Not because I wanted to erase the memory, but because I no longer needed proof. The truth had already been told. Justice had already been served. The past had done its job. I walked back inside, closed the front door, not to hide from my life, but to begin living it. If someone ever asked me, how did that camera change your life? I would smile and answer, it didn't save my marriage. It saved me. Because sometimes, the truth hurts. But living with the truth will always be better than living inside a lie. Times the camera recorded the day I was betrayed. Times, but it also recorded the day I found my life again. Times,